launched in July of 2022, and it's been pretty fun ever since. Um, on my end, I do focus a lot on the Protege program. Coming from State Farm and going through 7 years of being told I'd be able to get an office was a real eye opener to me. So that now when I'm approaching Proteges, especially people that are already in the insurance industry, have the conversation and explain to them that you don't have to wait 3, 4, 5 years. It can be a lot sooner of a process, especially if they're prepared to launch and they know how to run an office and how to run all the systems, everything like that. Um, so basically on my end, where I find proteges and even my team members is I utilize ideal traits with the help of my don't want to throw I don't know how you guys how the DMs do it, but on our side, our Mike's office does help work my ideal traits. So I do get a lot of applicants every day, but they're helping me go through that, kind of sort out the people that I don't want based on my preferences and assessments. Um, and then they send them to me to do a in-person interview or phone interview with them. Um, referrals from the community or team members. I got lucky. I don't know if it's lucky or got noticed, but um, by a lot of former State Farm aspirants when I first launched, I noticed the success we were having in the agency. Um, so my first 3 or 4 proteges were just State Farm aspirants that didn't want to wait any longer and came over, and they basically launched in about 3 or 4 months. The handful I had, and that still continues to drip in. Some of them aren't as seasoned as the first couple I've had, but it might take a little longer for them to go through protege, but we're talking still under a year for them to go out and launch into the agency. Whereas before, there is no guarantee on their end when they're going to launch anymore. And then LinkedIn, if I see someone, I'll shoot them a DM or reach out, see if we can get coffee and just talk about the experience and how I appreciate it and see if we can help them out too. From there, once we bring them on, um, I'll go down to the pay section first because that kind of is important when you're approaching these. Um, Really, my pay range has always been between 30 and 39,000 for a team member or protege. My goal for them is to double what they make on the salary end. I'm not doing any kind of like hit a certain number to get this salary amount or commission. It's really this is for them to live off of. The commission part is an important part for them to realize that that's where they're going to make the most money on. So the way I pay everyone in my office is 5% for auto, 7% for fire, and 25% for life. Anything under $400 in um, annual premium for life, I pay $100 because it's easier math. I will be changing that soon because I feel that drives them to do a smaller policy too. So we'll be changing that very soon. Single lines in my office are $10. Um, and you'll hear me multiple times a day yell up in my office if I hear someone closing a single line policy of why it's only a single line. So I don't like it. They don't stick, especially with Bristol. They never stick. So I'm very passionate about the multi-line in a household. Um, and then I also have monthly bonuses and annual bonuses for team members just to keep them motivated based on team goals and also individual goals. It's on my end, it's all labeled out of what they need to hit for on my end for the annual goals. It's based on President's Council, 100 apps, so Century Club, and then topic should always be a given. Like we hit topper this year in March, so that should already be a given from the first day of the new year. We're gonna hit that, so that's already on there, and they understand that. From once they get into my office, the training. So a lot of role play. We use Vlad's system. Um, so between the first day they're here, they're learning about all the different wordings and definitions of the products, so that when they get on the phone with a customer, they can explain to them in the most human way what those coverages mean. I don't want to have an insurance answer. I want to have someone that has no idea what insurance is, be able to understand what we're telling them for coverages and why we're better. So lots of role playing on that, and lots of role playing in Vlad's sales system and the one call close method, just so they can get that down. And then on our end for proteges, at least we have a district checklist. So from day one all the way through until they graduate, they have different areas that I need to teach my proteges, especially the areas to look at. So it's either looking at, um, folio and how you read folio. What do the things in folio mean? How to do servicing. That's the next slide too. But servicing and answering phones and what happens when a mistake happens, those kind of things, all on a checklist that our district has made to go through, and just making sure that they understand that before they do launch and they're on their own. Um, so that's basically on that end. It makes it a little bit easier on my end. Can you go back real fast? Sorry. Yeah, there you go.
Hey,
Thank you.
Ryan, we had a question too
For sure.
on your bonuses. How do you pay? Like, if you guys hit toppers, everyone gets X amount, or what are the different ones you do, and how do you
Yeah,
quantify them or pay them?
for sure. But can I share my screen real fast? Maybe a lot easier.
1 second. Should be good to share.
It's 1,000 things open. Let's see. See it?
Yep.
Awesome. So basically on our end, so you can see, I break it down to 3 different lines of business. So personal premium, business premium, and life premium, based on quarterly goals. So quarters 1 through 3, they do make, those should be our constant. We should be hitting these numbers. Q4 is always the one that, people do struggle in and don't always, there's holidays, those kind of things. So production always drops a little bit. But $50 per goal. So if we hit one of these, $50 per goal, plus another $300 if we hit all 3 of them. So $50 per, so it should be $250 per quarter if we hit all 3 of these in the first quarter all the way through. Next one is Q4, so that's now $250 per requirement. If we're at the end of the Q4, end of the year, we're hitting all these numbers, we get another, it's basically $1,000 overall. And then if we hit all 4 per, it's 500. And if it's all of them, so every single one of them, we're getting another, it's basically $2,000 overall. That's per team member on our side. So if we're hitting these numbers, we should be to a point that I can pay that out, hopefully. The Topper Club right here. So Topper, you can see 250. That should be automatic every year, unless they our beautiful loss ratio will take that away. But that's the only thing that will take away Topper from us. But Century Club 500 and President's Club, it's either $1,000 or a trip. This is my first year that I'm eligible for Toppers, or not Toppers, but President's Council. So that's one of the biggest goals. Century Club last year became a goal of mine because in State Farm world, 100 apps is not a lot of life apps for a agency to write. But when we got to Topper last year and saw there was only we were in Eastern District last year, but in the Eastern last year there was only like 12, or maybe less than that, agencies that hit 100 apps. So that kind of blew my mind and said, wow, that would be an awesome thing to be up there on that stage and do this too. I know my team can handle it and do it. So those are 3 right there. And then I have individual monthly goals. So the highest written premium over 30 is 250. The most life apps written over 5 is another 250. My telemarketer, my lead generation specialist, if she gets over 240 transfers in a month, quotes in a month, it's $250 there. And then the most Google reviews over 5 is $100 for team members. So that kind of how I break it all down.
Nice. Thanks for sharing that.
Nice. Just share my screen again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So checklists, I pull all my team members into experiences. So if like Gavin, I'm in a different office the last couple of weeks because I'm training a new team member. So Gavin is literally to my right here. That client came in the other day, brought his deck pages, anything like that. I sit him right next to me, and we go through the process of what I would do in a situation when a client comes into my office, just to give him that because he's never had that experience before of seeing how that goes, so that once it's his turn to do that, um, it's not going to be a fumbling kind of thing. Understanding how to go over everything and making sure that everything that they brought to us makes sense. So I like to do that for just normal people, business, commercial, especially when you're on your own. It's a little bit hard to figure out not only just farmers commercial, but also if farmers is at the fit and you have to go to Craft Lake, how that process works and what you need to do in order to um, get a quote with Craft Lake, depending on what company you're going to use. So trying to bring them into those kind of experiences, and I make everyone in my office do service. So we it is definitely a learning period. Um, but it helps in two sides. One, it helps them to get more comfortable with old policies. I have some, smart plan, those kind of things I bought from the previous agency owner. Um, but they also get some knowledge of, if they screw up something too, they can go in and they can change it right away because they can see in a service situation how to do it. And it also takes some pressure off my CSR and my office manager that they're not always the ones always answering the service call. And sometimes a call in or a service call can turn into a life pivot or like, hey, you don't see your home with us currently. Can we help you out on that too and get your quote real fast? So it teaches them to do those pivots too, for the sales team. Once they do launch into an agency, they can teach their staff that they can do that when they're going through the book of business. Um, and then steps for success on my team. Um, I average about 15 to 18 new leads purchased a day per team member. When I was going through my numbers, I saw the quotes per day. Um, just to give you guys a reference, um, we average about 72 in July so far a day and 81 in June. So I make my team, if we're not answering, if people are answering the phones, um, they are still sending out an auto home quote umbrella depending on their liability limits, and then putting a price in the system for a life policy, just so that once we get those people on the phone, um, we're talking to them and making sure that we bring up everything to them right there and then, not leaving anything on the table. Um, we also email and text those pricings out. Um, and it is nice on the back end especially for home leads, that we will get some random mortgage companies sending us the close documents, those kind of things, telling us, okay, we're going forward with this, when we never even talk to the client until we get that letter. We have to call the client and say, hey, you going with us? Like, yeah. That's why we kind of do the ghost quoting thing. It's worked out very well on our end. Um, my lead generation specialist, like I talked about before, is my telemarketer. Just thank God for ChatGPT to give me a better name than telemarketer for an employee. She calls every single lead. We have Ricochet. So Ricochet is a dial app that she's the only one that has in the office. I don't have enough money to pay for everyone to have in the office yet. But she'll, as soon as a lead hits our system in agency Zoom, she's calling it. The system's automatically calling this person. So in less than a second, we got a call from her, and then our team members are also calling right away too. Just depending whoever gets it. But she averages about 15 to 22 um quotes a day we're getting by just Brandy doing that alone. That's talk to quotes. It's not just ghost quotes.
Hey Ryan, those leads that are popping in there, are those EverQuote leads, or I guess what are some of the lead sources that you guys are buying or
For sure.
generating?
I buy from everyone, and some that the call's recorded, but some that farmers doesn't like either. So EverQuote, Quote Wizard, Smart Financial, Collins, um, I'm very hesitant. I'm very I don't know if anyone has used Smart Financials for the call-ins. They're expensive. I'm very hesitant on what to use on that end. I track my numbers a lot on Smart Financials to see making sure that my ROI is still there. End of the day, if we're buying, 3 or 4 $55 leads a day, is my ROI still there based on close percentages? We do not have the close percentages that you guys have. After seeing that slide, that's insane. We're around 5 to 6%, depending on who we're using for our lead vendor or who we're talking to for referrals. But yeah, basically, I use every single one in the marketplace, and the way I track it is I just track ROI based on daily leads in, how much it costs average per lead, and then what we've closed on it. And that's kind of how I balance. I usually go through about every 2 weeks. I balance where we're at. So I adjust. Okay, EverQuote's been a little lax on providing good quotes. Let's move towards more of Quote Wizard or to Smart Financial or another company. So I'm always keeping track of that on my end, just to make sure we're not throwing away dollars that we don't need to throw away.
There's a certain number of leads you're buying per producer or a certain dollar spend per producer a month that you're aiming for?
Yeah, it's about that 15 to 18. I basically get about 80, almost 90 leads a day we're purchasing. Um, and it basically breaks down to that 15 to 18 per team member.
That's five producers that you have or five protege.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I have uh yeah, I think five team members, 4 which are proteges. Nikolai is launching, so I can't count him as a protege anymore. And then I have um one. Gavin is new, so we'll update this, and it'll probably be around 105 we'll get a day after Gavin's live.
Nice.
And you can go to that next slide too. Thank you. So this is kind of the same thing. So leads per team member kind of breaks down my math of what we do, and it's all about activity. 15 to 20 a day is what I said for for um for leads, depending if it's call-ins or anything else. Overall, it's about 15 to 20 they're touching every day. Out of those, about 12 to 14 contacts per team member a day, resulting in 6 to 8 talk to quotes. So actually household quotes. And when I consider a household quote equals an auto, a home, a renter's umbrella, and a life policy. So we're presenting all that at the end of the call. And then just like single lines, if I'm not hearing it, there's a disconnect on why we're not presenting it that way, because there's an issue there. So we definitely have some role plays on that end, just to make sure that we're comfortable presenting everything at the end of the call and not being hesitant and thinking, one, it's too high of a premium, and two, hey, they said they didn't need that. What's not presented. At the end of the day, you're providing value to the customer, whether they realize it or not. So always present, and then you can always go back. If you lose a sale because you presented the life policy, that probably isn't the best person ever to have as a customer. Sorry, trying to insure your loved ones for you if anything were to happen to you. That's how I look at it. On our side, for every quote, every quote we actually do talk to, we average about 24% of those, depending on the lead source we're using. This is including recruiting my natural market in my community too. So that's why the number is a little bit different. And then from there, um, so above should be sorry. So based on the above number, 6 to 8, we should get about 1.25 sales per team member per day. So that should be around anywhere from $1,800 to $2,500 per team member per day is what our goal is. Is where that number is based on our actual our breakdown. So activity leads everything. So as long as we're, hitting the 80 dials a day, or you get those 6 to 8 talk to quotes a day, those two things are going to lead your numbers into the goals we want to set for you and hit. To give you a reference of where we start our teams at for premium goals is a new person is starting at 20,000 for premium goal. And then of course, if you hit that goal, you're gonna go up from that. Some of my team members don't always understand when they have big months why their goal goes up a little bit, because you hit the goal. So my highest right now is 35,000 is their goal on a monthly basis. They've hit it the last couple of months. So I have a 20, 25, 30, and 235s currently. So that kind of drives, and every time they hit the goal, they're bumping up. And by hitting the goal, you get to go to lunch with me at the end of the month. So some kind of motivation, I guess, to go out with me to lunch. I'm a fun guy, I guess. So they get to come out and hang out with me and get out of the office for a little bit and get something paid for. But that's been a big motivation, especially being the highest premium and also a cash equivalent too. People are really driving for that at the end of the day. And this kind of breaks down for your question. I have about 70 leads. This should be up. I should have updated this, but it should be about 85 now I'm getting. And then anything from 3 to 5 social media, Google. I use the Google. It's on the growth store, but farmers actually you can use your call share for it. Which end of the day, end of the year, I am always struggling to use my call share dollars. Because they're not used for anything anymore, I feel like. So I would highly recommend using that social media. So there's a Facebook and there's also Google marketing on the growth store. We get honestly 3 to 5 call-ins a day asking for home. We have it strictly for home leads and home quotes. So I love that program so far. And then community engagement. So we do sponsorships. You see my face all over the place. We have drop-ins. So I do drop off donuts, or we take things in, really cheesy things into people's offices, and kind of drive up some business from that too. So we're basically getting 3 to 5 a day that way too. Those two, the bottom two, are definitely more higher closing rates than the leads. However, I still need leads to survive on a day-to-day basis to hit our goals and what I want us to do at the end of the day. I look at lead as a hopefully a shorter term thing that I can hit my numbers and get to a point that we're producing enough referrals to kind of bring that 70 down a lot lower is my ultimate goal, and then also build a database up of leads we bought over time that we can just continually call on also. Because at the end of the day, the most important thing you're going to get in a lead call, if you don't talk to them, is who they're currently insured with and when is their renewal date. Those two things are going to be the most important things if you're spending 8 hours on a lead and you never talk to them, because you can follow up with that person the rest of their life, and 2 times a year when to follow up with them a month before and see if we can help them out. If they're ever mad or anything like that, they just got their bill and it's like, oh wow, I went up. You're that person that called, because after that first 30 days, Progressive's not calling, no one else is calling. And the more contacts you reach out to them, the more better chances of you're going to be able to quote that down the line 2-3 years from now. That's what I always stress to my team, is that's the most important thing to get from them, their renewal date and then who they're currently through. Because we or us on our side will see rate increases for companies for our state. So in agency Zoom, I can plug in, all right, State Farm's taking a whatever rate increase. They took 7% rate increases last year. So we targeted State Farm and we called all State Farm leads last year, end of the year. And that really helped us in that and the end of the year push. And then on my process says, so I kind of explained it a little bit already, but sales team really they're calling right away. So it pops up in Ring Central. They're calling, not Ring Central, sorry, Agency Zoom. along with Brandy on Ricochet. So they're both calling, two different numbers are calling these clients as soon as that lead comes in. So we have a very high chance of getting them on the phone and being the first ones to get them on the phone before everyone else calls them. And then if we don't get them on the phone, we're automatically sending a ghost quote for auto and home quotes, emailing and texting them out, and then putting, like I said, the renewal and current insure information into agency Zoom. And we continue to call on for that for about 30 days. And then automation is also put in there for any calls, texts, emails that we need to do down the road too.
So how do you segment the time? I mean, obviously a lead comes in, you guys are trying to call them, but when do you start that ghost quote? Is there a certain time block that you guys do it? Do you do it while you're calling them, or
So yeah, the way I did it and the way I have my team do it is as soon as like we're calling out, um it's either going to be two things. You're either going to go voicemail or you're going to get someone on the phone. And you're going to have that quote up anyway. So might as well just start working on it right away. You have most of the information that you need. So as soon as you're calling out, I'm having them pull it up on an Apex and start quoting it. So we know right away who they're currently through. So when we ask that question, when they're asking who you through, you guys like, oh, it looks like you're Progressive right now. What are they currently charging you? So we already know some information, but we seem a little bit more prepared than the normal person reaching out to them.
Okay. And are you sending that out after you leave a voicemail or after you call them, or are you
Yeah.
sending out?
So we always double tap. So we call voicemail, call right back just to see if we, if they do not disturb us, something like that. So that's one thing we do. And then the team will always call back. So we do the double tap in the front. We do the ghost quote. We call them before we call them one more time before we move that into our next segment of agency Zoom, just in case. You never know if they're going to answer that third time. So that's a team member side. Brandy just really does it once, and then the system on her end, Ricochet will call another 2 times the first day, 2 times the second day, and I think it goes all the way to day 7. That's when it stops calling on Brandy's side for a new lead.
When you send out that ghost quote to them via email or text, I assume you do that for everybody, whether you get to talk to them or not. Is that right?
Uh, on the ghost quote end, it's only for people that we have not talked to. We will send out a real quote if we talk to that client or that lead. We will send out the real quote to them too after the fact, after we make sure everything's is accurate. If we haven't talked to them, then yeah, it would be a ghost quote.
And then do you put like a disclaimer in there or something like that, like subject change or
Yeah, nice. The team actually hates my wording for it, but let me I think it says like really rough quote, or not even says quote, it says really rough. So it implies that it's not accurate. Um,
Can
so
you
that
can you clarify quickly what a ghost quote is for some people that may not know?
sure, yeah, ghost quote on our side is basically all the information that is in the lead. So if you get an auto lead, you're gonna see the cars they have. It's going to tell you if they own or they rent the home, usually. So we're taking that information, going into Apex or Policy Center now, and quoting based on that information there. If once we get into Policy Center and we see their current insurance is not those vehicles, we'll change them to what their current vehicles are showing on the prior carrier. And then I assume you guys have the same option too, but on our side of Michigan, we have an option in our presets in Policy Center that you can select, and it'll actually pull over what their current carrier coverages are, or it'll match it pretty closely. So we use that, and it does match. I don't know how it knows this, but it does match their deductibles too, especially on the car side. That we use that, or we just basically use $100 and $500 for collision. And we use that. We use the quote there. And then we go into the home, and most of the times on the home side, you can find their house on Zillow or on any kind of county website, and you should be able to find year built, size, and then from Google Maps or Zillow can figure out how many bedrooms, those kind of things, and kind of give a rough idea of what the home home quote's going to be. So basically, we put those two together and we send them out. So it's very, very rough, but it gives them an idea of what we could provide, and hopefully gets a call back or an email back because of that.
Thank you.
So as far as obviously you got your process fine tuned, what are some of the systems? I know you mentioned you have Agency Zoom and Ricochet. Can you
Yeah.
kind of go into a little bit of detail on those things, how they talk to each other?
Yeah. Yeah. So Ricochet is, if you can afford it, I would recommend to anyone. I got this idea from Vlad, because he has his whole team on Ricochet. Ricochet is a little bit more expensive, but Ricochet, what it does is it inputs all the leads that are coming into our office on like every second, and it is automatically auto dialing. So Brandy, all she has to do at the beginning of the day is hit the green button. It starts dialing all our leads that are coming in all throughout the day. Um, and then what she does is basically, if she gets someone on the phone in Ring Central, we have a chat, and what she does is put into that chat the lead information. She starts to transfer over to our sales line, and so it rings. Everyone's very, they're quiet when they answer the phone. They like whoever is on the phone with Brandy likes the post that she posted already, and then they start the conversation and they go that way. Um, it is Ricochet is by far my favorite thing we have in the office because of how easy it is to use, and also how quick to the lead it is. We're beating the bigger companies every time, I feel like. So, and then Ring Central is just a CRM system. I had Agency MVP, I think it was called, before when I first launched. Didn't have a lot of automations, those kind of things that'll, make it easier on my team. A lot of things on my team's end had to be inputted directly by my team. With Agency Zoom, I went through Mariah Gates, and she built out my system for how to, for a new lead, for service, for old not talked to or not quoted leads. She built that system out, but basically what it's doing, it's almost every day the lead is getting a call, and that's what's coming to our team members, and it's telling them to call them, a text and an email that's automatically sent by the system. And it makes it very easy on our end that my team's not having to worry about sending out emails and texts by themselves, like inputted manually by themselves, because that takes a lot of time. When I was at State Farm, that's what my team had to do. And throughout the day, that's an hour of time typing or even copying and pasting into a system to send out a quote. So it's much, much easier.
Hey, Ryan, could you finish just with a little bit on life insurance? 74 apps last year. You're doing
Yeah.
a large amount of lead volume. Sometimes people, that's a harder life sale in some people's minds. So how do you guys bring it up, sell it, and what does it look like, the process?
Yeah. So in our if you have never, if on Vlad's system, he just started talking to us about some life, but on our end, I kind of fine tune Vlad's opening in the hook. And basically after you're asking about, let's say they have Progressive for their auto insurance. On that note, we're asking, awesome, do you also have your home or renter's insurance through Progressive? Okay. And if they'd say yes, then we're going to say, awesome, does Progressive also provide to you coverage that would pay off your mortgage? And, God forbid you were to pass away. And we're not comparing it to, hey, do you currently have life insurance? We're asking, hey, does Progressive or does that company you're currently insured with provide this for you? Because we're going to provide it for you. So that's kind of our approach. And at the end, we're providing, if they said they have a mortgage, we're going to provide a simple, not simple term, but a value term for percentage of what we think on Zillow, what their home is worth, in providing that quote to them and presenting it. For older individuals, we do tend to lead to the simple whole life or a graded, depending. I need to get my team a little bit better with being comfortable of approaching IULs and larger terms for older individuals. But that's kind of the approach we're doing. It's mostly all new sales we're getting these life policies on. In my thought of it all is that we get something in force on the call. And then once we do an onboarding, Bree or Abby in my office or onboarding, they can have that conversation saying, awesome, congrats on getting life insurance. Do you think this amount is good enough for you? And that's where we have that conversation of the different policies out there that we can, kind of, the underwriting's already kind of done. We just have to have that conversation of, is this what you want to do? Or can we go a bit higher if you're comfortable with this premium amount? Does this protect you more in that case?
Okay, cool. One more question here from Robin to close us out.
For sure.
Hey, I just had one quick question going back a little bit. You talked about going out and doing like donut drops and cheesy drops. Are you taking your staff with you, and are you just targeting like businesses to kind of introduce yourself to collect personal lines, or are you targeting commercial when you're going out? What's that marketing system look like?
Yeah, so in my head, until about February this year, I kind of felt I got busy, guys. So I was doing really good for the whole last year and a half of doing these. I called it do not forget about local. And I would do it to commercial businesses. I would drop them off to, with the thought of going after them for their business insurance. And hopefully by that, the owner will let me quote the staff and them their personal stuff too. But on the back end of me posting it on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook is that everyone in town or in other towns sees that and also have been reaching out to me and saying, wow, I literally see your face every single day of the week. And that was kind of my thought of it. It's like, I want to be in front of these people that are bigger companies in our town. But also by doing that, when I post about them, hundreds, thousands of people are going to see it too, wherever they're at. It definitely has worked with the back end too. We'll figure out Farmers front end for the commercial, what they like, but we got some workers' comp, but we're on the back end though with the individuals that see this. We've grown a lot because of that too. So that they're reaching out to me via Facebook or coming to the office, stopping by the office, calling the office, and getting quotes because they see what we do in the community too, where no one else is doing it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, I think that's a great way to close. A couple of really good tips on how you approach life, what you do for local stop and drops. Love everything you shared. We'll get the slides out to you guys. I apologize.
We are farmers. Bum, ba, dum, bum, 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 bum.